Hi, I'm Helen and I was diagnosed in 2008 with IgA nephropathy, which is an antibody which affects the filtration system of the kidneys. It blocks the filtration system in the kidneys, which causes glomerulonephritis, which is basically an inflammatory response in the filtration system of the kidneys. And I've been on dialysis 8 years now. The reason that I chose to do home hemodialysis is that research has shown that people on home dialysis, because they're having more dialysis, they have a better life expectancy overall compared to people on maintenance dialysis, which is those that dialyse in centre and at satellite units as well. Dialysis does the job of what working kidneys can no longer do. Healthy kidneys have a number of important functions, which is to maintain fluid balance and minerals and salts within the body. They also produce vitamin D, which helps to absorb calcium from the abdomen, from the stomach. So they play a role in bone health as well. They also produce erythropoietin, which is needed to produce red blood cells. So people who have reduced kidney function or no kidney function suffer with anemia, which can cause tiredness and a number of other issues like palpitations as well. They also play a part in controlling blood pressure because they produce angiotensin. So they have a number of very important functions, and once they begin to fail, and they've failed, the only way to sustain life is to undertake dialysis or have a kidney transplant. I dialyse alternate days. I tend not to have a 2-day break. People on maintenance dialysis are only offered the very bare minimum of dialysis, which is 12 hours a week. People on home dialysis tend to fit dialysis round their own schedule. It's whatever works for the individual, really. I dialyse alternate days, 4-hourly treatments, so it'll be 16 hours one week, 12 hours another week. Home dialysis is also better for your lifestyle as well, because you're not tied then to the hospital schedule. And I find as well that if I need to go somewhere, or if I have an appointment, or if I'm feeling unwell, I can change my dialysis schedule to fit my own needs. So, for example, last week I was unwell one night, and I was due to dialyse the following day, but I was able to miss a day because I'd already dialysed the previous day. So I was able to dialyse the following day then, and then catch up on the hours later in the week. So there is the option of changing my dialysis round to fit my own needs. And if I want to go away for a weekend, you know, I'm able to go away and have a 2-day break, but I don't tend to have that 2-day break very often, and dialyse when I come back for a couple of hours or so and then dialyse again the following day. So it's all about the number of hours that I do in the week, really, as long as I don't have a consistent 2-day break and dialyse every other day. It tends to fit my lifestyle quite well. Nocturnal dialysis is the best form of dialysis, and it's the nearest form of dialysis that you can get to a kidney transplant, because it's a longer and slower form of treatment, and people generally can reduce down a lot of their medication, the phosphate binders. Some people stop phosphate binders altogether and stop blood pressure medications as well, because they find that they feel so well on nocturnal dialysis. Dialysis only does a quarter of the job of normal healthy kidneys. Normal healthy kidneys filter between approximately 200 litres of blood every 24 hours. A dialysis machine even on a good during a good dialysis would only filter between 65 to 70 litres of blood during that dialysis session. So you can see that even though people are on dialysis, it is only sustaining life, really, and the more dialysis you have, the better it is for you. Phosphates, this dialysis machine as well, the HDF, is very effective at removing phosphates, and it's more effective than machines like Next Stage. Research has shown it's quite effective at removing phosphates, but phosphates, they need a longer time on dialysis to actually remove the phosphate, because even though people are on phosphate binders, dialysis is not very effective at removing phosphates. So that's why people need to take phosphate binders, because as I mentioned before, phosphates, if not adequately controlled, can leach calcium out of the bones, and cause problems long term. So I think I've said that all I need to say for now. Apologies if I've not mentioned anything or I've forgotten anything. My memory's not as good as it used to be, and feel free to ask any questions, and I hope you enjoy the video, and thanks for watching.
Our house is a very, very, very fine house with 2 cats.
Right, I'm going to show you how I like my machine. This is the FX 5008 Cordiax HDF. HDF stands for hemodiafiltration, which basically means that this machine is capable of removing the middle molecule, beta-2 microglobulin, which people that have been on long-term dialysis, this beta-2 microglobulin can accumulate over a long period of time, causing painful bone cysts, and also can affect the organs in the chest as well. HDF is the only form of dialysis that is capable of removing this middle molecule, So even people on short-term daily dialysis that use the next stage, this middle molecule is not going to be removed effectively. So I'm, you know, quite glad that I'm on HDF. So I'm just going to show you now how I line the machine. I've already washed my hands, so I'm just going to put the hand gel on before I open the pack. And start. So I'm going to go into treatment on the screen, which will advise me to connect to the acid canister, which is the dialer site, and each patient will be prescribed the appropriate dialer site which is suitable for them, and it will advise me to connect the buy bag, which I've done. So I'm just going to open the pack. You might not be able to see on here, but in the pack there are 3 lots of lines. There's the arterial line, which has little ports on it with little clips that need to be closed off, because I'm not using anything that's going to be connected to those ports. So I'm just going to close off all the little clamps. Packs are all sterile, and there shouldn't be any tears. They all have an expiry date as well. The lines go in with this facing. So now I open the doors, and it will advise you on the screen what to do. It says to insert the lines and open the doors. So I'm inserting the arterial line, and you'll hear a ping, and the arterial pressure dome ejects. And I'm just feeding the lines into here. This goes into the arterial pressure dome and into the sensor there. And because I'm not using that at the moment, just make sure everything's not tangled, I hook it over the machine. Also, a little tip is just to make sure all these are actually secure on as well, because sometimes they can drop off. Now this little thing here, again, it should be facing this way, and this is the substitute line which goes into the lower pump. And again, you should hear a ping, and I'm going to connect the rinse connector, which is on the end here, to the end of the arterial line. Just make sure it's secure on, and again, just need to make sure that you don't touch the ends of any connectors. That goes on there and up there. The substitute line in HDF adds an online fluid solution during dialysis, which helps stop any sudden blood pressure drops for people who are prone to having blood pressure drops throughout treatment. Again, that is the only form of dialysis that actually does that, and it helps maintain any difference in fluid shifts during dialysis treatment. Extra fluid is being removed, that kidneys can no longer do that job, so it will add a substitution fluid throughout dialysis to help stop the shift and the sudden fluid shift between the cells. If I was to find during dialysis that my blood pressure was going to drop quite suddenly and I became unwell, there is an online system which will add an emergency bolus of extra fluid to stop me becoming more unwell during dialysis, and there is an emergency button on the remote control to do that, and obviously if that happened, I would check my blood pressure. If I started to feel unwell, lie myself back and give myself an emergency bolus of intravenous saline. But in 3 years I've only had to do that once, so it's a case of getting to know your own body and not removing too much fluid during treatment. So I'm just going to connect up the venous line now. This little thing here is called transducer, and again these are all just sensors. You need to make sure that's on tight, because if that becomes wet during treatment, it's a case of having to change it throughout treatment, which you don't really want to be messing about doing on the machine when you're on your own dialysing. Make sure this venous bubble trap rests on the ledge, and you're less likely to get any bubbles then in the venous bubble trap if it's always resting on there. And you need to make sure it's in the sensor there and into there. Connect the line along the bottom. This little thing here detects any leakages from the lines, so it would alarm the machine if there was any problems with the lines during treatment. And I'm just going to connect the rings connector, the venous rings connector, to the end. So it's always blue to blue. I'll just take that off the end and be careful that you don't touch any of the ends of the connectors. And again, that hooks over there. Before I actually line it, the machine is actually going through what's called a test one as well, to check if there's any errors. I'm just opening the artificial kidney. It doesn't matter which end goes where, as long as when you're connecting up the machine that you have red to red and blue to blue at each end of the kidney, the artificial kidney, which is the dialyzer here. So I'll just show you what I mean by that, and that's these here the dialyzer couplings which connect from the machine up to the artificial kidney here. So it's red to red, blue to blue. They actually what I call petrol pumps, because they remind me a bit of when I'm getting fuel at the petrol pump. So basically it takes two to 3 minutes to actually line the machine, and once you get into a routine, it just becomes second nature, like cleaning your teeth really. I tend to put my machine through heat when I get up in the morning. It takes about 40 minutes for it to go through heat disinfection, and then once I've put it through heat, I tend to line the machine ready, but I don't prime it, which means obviously filling the lines with saline before I actually go on treatment. I don't prime it until I'm actually ready for going on treatment. So basically that's all it is for actually lining the machine. Quite easy to do once you get used to it. I dialyse alternate days. I think I've mentioned that previously, and that's it for now.